So we are used to saying pollution, seeing pollution all around us, and then we're talking about greenhouse gases and global warming. So, what is the relation? They are not completely independent. Both correspond to consumption by human beings, but also emissions. So, these are kind of the pictures that show how plastic, the miracle material, has now become the bane of the world, including faraway places in the ocean and ocean bottom, and so on and so forth, that you read a lot about. Plus, the population increase comes with massive amounts of garbage production every day, and we are running out of places to hide it. Obviously, there is a lot of burning of trash, which is very dangerous and produces greenhouse gases and pollutants. Like a city here, we don't even have to worry about which city it is. Most cities now have a high level of pollution, and it's only relative. Let's say Beijing and Delhi are really bad. Bombay may feel better, but it's still dangerous for health. Chicago and Philadelphia may feel better, but on hot days they have red alerts for ozone and smog and so on. So it's just relative. All our industrial activities, including power generation, cement production, anything we produce has polluting impacts on the atmosphere or the odor or the water, right? Groundwater, surface water, ocean, everything gets polluted, and the chemicals that are emitted, like sulfur, NOx from nitrogen oxides from burning fossil fuel, sulfur dioxide from burning fossil fuels and coal, and so on, can dissolve into water and produce acid rains and acid snow and so on, and have all kinds of impact. So land, air, water, all are polluted, and there is plenty of evidence that human health is seriously impacted by all that, as we will see later on, again in detail. But the equation is quite complicated. If you look at death rates from air pollution, for example, for the world from 1990 to 2007, these are death rates as numbers that can be attributed to pollution per 100,000 population. So you have to take deaths, you have to find the cause, and you have to be sure that it was caused by pollution. Oftentimes it's not directly pollution, it's not like you suffocate from pollution, but pollution can exacerbate diabetes, heart diseases, blood pressure, and so on, right? Nonetheless, total air pollution has dropped, which sounds like good news, but we'll see that it's not equitable. Indoor air pollution has dropped because people have better standards of living. So in many places there is air conditioning, there is better ventilation, and so on. Outdoor particulate matter, there are places where it has increased, but it has essentially remained flat. Particulate matter from something like PM10, 10 microns, to PM2.5, there is a range, and smaller because we cannot measure very well below PM2.5. You can directly inhale them, and they can cause very serious problems, including dementia and brain damage, not only for humans but also for street dogs and so on, right? Outdoor ozone pollution has remained fairly flat. Is this good news? Of course, for some it is, but if you look at the share of deaths from outdoor air pollution in 2017, you can see that it's fairly low in the rich countries. Even in Europe, there is a distinction between Eastern European countries and Western European countries that are richer. You can clearly see the gradient here going from order 2% or less to around 8% or so. Developing countries like India and China, for example, have a much higher burden of death from air pollution. It's millions of people per year. And how do you count it? For example, one thing is that any air pollution that's generated here has the potential to affect everybody. But countries like India, especially China, which is the manufacturer for the world, is producing pollution to sell stuff to all these rich countries. So air quality here is relatively good, but that's because they are not producing many of the things they consume. All the pollution associated with what they consume is actually generated here. So how do you count for who is polluting and who is paying the price? So things obviously get quickly very complicated, but right now, with the way the economic growth works, countries can only grow economically and improve the standards of living, not quality of life, GDP, per capita GDP and total GDP and so on, by emitting more, all the greenhouse gases as well as polluting their water, land and air. A lot of the pollutants are short-lived and they remain local, but some of the long-lived pollutants go all the way across the Pacific and show up in the US, also from here to there, and they affect local climate as well as global climate. We'll see a little bit about aerosols, which are these particles in the air. They can affect radiation because they can also reflect radiation and cause some cooling, but they are also black carbon which can absorb the cooling. Plus, a lot of the black carbon, for example, get into snow and glaciers and cause more rapid melting because black carbon can absorb more of the sunlight because its albedo or reflectivity is lower. So this is obviously a very complicated issue. Most important being, of course, that the human health is directly impacted. Plus, global warming is also directly or indirectly impacted. So, essentially, the way we have set up our system right now, all the economic growth comes with pollution. Not just greenhouse gases, but pollution. So, we will see that energy intensity of the GDP and the carbon intensity of the energy production are two of the big things to keep a track of in terms of impacts on global warming and pollution.